Today I'm going to take a look at 1 Nephi 6. I don't have a lot to say about this chapter. It's short, and so this should be pretty quick, but who knows, I may blabber on as usual. First of all, this chapter is an editorial comment. Nephi essentially breaks the flow of the narrative and then makes some comments. He does this on a number of occasions. I've listed some of them there, but also Grant Hardy has analyzed the editorial voices and the comments and so forth in a book called Understanding the Book of Mormon. He does a lot more than that, but he goes into detail on some of these issues. So it's obvious, although it's not expressly explicit, it's obvious that Nephi is writing this much later and then is adding in comments as he goes through and prepares what he's going to call the small plates. Now, Nephi does not provide the full genealogy. He says it's given in the book of Lehi, but he simply emphasizes he's descendant of Joseph, and the importance of this will become clear later on. He also says that he won't write a full account of all the things of my father, but rather will write the things of God. As I mentioned before in another video, things in English implies just matters or affairs or something like that. But the word that translates thing or things is in Hebrew is dabar, dabarim, and in Hebrew conceptualization, this means both words and things. It's simply a broader concept. There's no English word that can translate this, so you either have to say things of my father or words of my father, but note, behind that phrase in English is a Hebrew conceptualization of things and words as essentially the same word. So the point Nephi is making is that he's going to emphasize the things of God. So there's a lot of ordinary day-to-day stuff that he's not going to talk about. Rather, he's going to focus on divine things, and that's because of his purpose. In 6:4, he says, "My purpose is to persuade men to come unto the God of Abraham." So, in other words, this book has a specific purpose, and that is to convince people about to come unto God. Now, notice at this point, there's a lack of messianic language. He doesn't say come unto Christ, as is said frequently throughout other places of the Book of Mormon. He says come unto the God of Abraham. And it's not quite clear why this is the case, but it's possible. Remember, the Messiah has only been mentioned once so far, and just in passing, the Messiah is going to come. Nephi and Lehi do not have clear messianic conceptions at this point. That comes later through Revelations, where they are given a more full understanding of Christ. So at this point in the narrative, they're talking about the God of Abraham. They're not talking about Christ. And that's interesting that's, you can see the shifting conceptualization of Nephi as the revelatory messages unfold to him, and he gets a clearer and clearer vision of the whole plan of God and the whole, all these mysteries of God that he talks about. Again, he emphasizes he's writing things that are pleasing to God, not pleasing to the world. And this reflects an emerging dualism in Nephi's thought that is pretty dualistic. It just splits the world in two. You're either in the church of God or you're in the church of the devil. There's no middle ground. Nephi is not a nuanced guy that looks at all the different aspects and permutations. You're either pleasing to God or you're pleasing to the world. You're either in the church of God, your church of the world, and so on and so forth. This will become more express and explicit later on in some of Nephi's sermons and revelations, but you can see it reflected in the text here. And then he gives a commandment to his descendants to write on these plates, which, although it's not explicit here, will later on be clear that these are the small plates, to not write the things which are not of worth. That is the things of the world. The things that are of worth are, of course, the things of God. So Nephi has kind of just given you a little synopsis of what he's doing, why he's doing it, what his goal is, and kind of allows us to understand where he's coming from, and then we can see all of these ideas, the purposes of Nephi, reflected in the text as we progress through the Book of Mormon.